flying a drone is a nerve-wracking experience at the best of times. Admittedly, you do gain confidence in these amazing machines the longer you own them, but if your DJI Care Refreshers run out and you don't own alternative insurance, then you'll fly very differently knowing there's several grand's worth of your hard-earned cash floating 100 metres up in the air. Flying as a storm approaches or over water always leads to a slightly tighter grip on the drone's remote control and an involuntary clenching of the sphincter muscle, commonly referred to as the quadcopter clench. Try saying that 3 times in a row. And if you're a member of a bikie gang, dropping a burner phone and a jiffy bag of finest shabu on the exercise yard at the local high security prison, I imagine that your heart rate will be slightly elevated too. But it's not just electrical storms and a reluctance to drop a couple of grand in the ocean that can screw up a drone flight. There are sometimes circumstances that are out of your control and which can turn a regular old drone flight from a kids' TV show into a 1970s era disaster movie in an instant. So if you'd rather not ruin a perfectly good pair of Kmart sweatpants, here's what to do when your drone's luck runs out. One of the most popular drone locations here in South Coast New South Wales is a place called the Seacliff Bridge in Wollongong. And it was at this dramatic location one fine summer's day when my Phantom 4 had a midlife crisis 30 metres up in the air. My drone started flying erratically all over the place as if it had lost GPS and compass bearings, and my controller was not having a huge impact on its altitude and bearing. What I'd experienced was a form of electromagnetic, or what's more commonly referred to as radio frequency interference. And while I can't be certain as to the cause of that interference, the most likely explanation is that the bridge itself and the steep escarpment that it runs alongside were the culprits. When flying near large structures such as massive bridges or buildings, the drone's compass can get thrown out of alignment and the GPS signal can get degraded. Now, initially I thought it was just my drone, but after mentioning my mid-air incident in a local drone Facebook group, it turned out that many other people had experienced the exact same issues in the exact same location. Now, there are 2 ways you can react to this situation when you lose control of your drone due to this electromagnetic interference. Firstly, you can shit yourself, struggle to wrestle back control of your drone, clench your teeth, gaze fixedly at the drone in the sky as it spazzes out like a over-enthusiastic thrash metal fan in the mosh pit, and generally make a complete tit of yourself. Or secondly, you can flick the drone to ATI mode and calmly land it. I'd like to say that I behaved like the Hudson River pilot Sully Sullenberger in this scenario, but I'd be lying. The truth is that most of us are far too reliant on the advanced features of modern drones and forget that even without GPS, compass, obstacle detecting vision sensors, onboard AI systems and accelerometers, you can still fly a drone the old-fashioned way. If I'd flicked my Phantom 4 to ATI mode, I could have regained control and landed it simply and without any fuss. ATI mode disengages the GPS and enables you to fly the drone like any other remote controlled aircraft. Fortunately, most drones released within the last 5 years or so have a bunch of features that make dealing with electromagnetic interference less troublesome. And this is particularly true for the last couple of generations of drones, which do not even have a user selectable ATI mode. So, 1. Calibrate your compass before you fly. You'll hear people saying they've never done this in years of drone ownership, but they're just being fucking edgelords and ignore them. It takes 10 seconds to calibrate a compass, and to have the peace of mind knowing that the drone knows the difference between north and south is priceless. 2. Set a realistic return to home height. The latest drones have intelligent RTH mode that can go around and above obstacles, but why not just take the guesswork out of it and set a decent height in the first place? 3. Set the drone to hover in case of signal loss. This will give you time to re-establish a connection with the drone and to land it safely. Alright, The second drama you may encounter while flying a drone is when the flight controller app crashes. Now, of course, the DJI Go app or its equivalent on Autel, Hubsan, Unique or Parrot is not required to fly the drone. You can control it perfectly easily using just the remote without any app at all. The problem is that most folks probably don't bother to learn to fly their drones without the app. And so if the app crashes, they freak the fuck out. I got my first drone about 8 years ago now, and the first time the DJI app crashed on me, I broke out into a cold sweat. I didn't know at that time that if the app crashed, I could restart it and it would carry on from where it left off. In my mind, I had visions of the drone hurtling towards the ground at terminal velocity because DJI Go shit itself. If you have a full controller like the DJI RC Pro rather than a smartphone wedged on top of a bundled controller, then you're unlikely to have this issue. For everyone else though, app crashes do occur, so be prepared. Simply take your fingers off the sticks to trigger hover mode and then fire the app up again. If you've had your drone for a while, then you'll know that the real problem with an app crash is that you lose your visual feed. Most folks fly their drones entirely by the feed transmitted back to the controller and onto the smartphone screen. And if you were doing some tricky maneuver or the drone was a long way away from your current position, then you'll just have to trust in its autonomous hover mode. For this reason, it's safer not to do tricky maneuvers such as flying close to trees when you cannot physically see the drone and its current orientation. That last bit, the orientation, is really important because if you don't know which way the drone is facing, you can easily make a bad situation worse by flying into the exact thing you're trying to maneuver the drone away from. To avoid app crashes, keep your drone's firmware up to date and ensure you're running the latest version of the controller app. Also, do not fly your drone with an untested smartphone. Always do a shakedown flight first to ensure it won't fail at some inconvenient moment. Okay, the third thing that can screw up a drone flight is stronger than expected wind. No, not that kind. All drones are rated to fly in fairly strong winds, but they do have their limits and can get Dorothy'd into oblivion. Also, if a drone is fighting a headwind, that means it's using much more power, and consequently the amount of juice in your battery will drop faster than normal. So firstly, check the wind speed at height. Get a weather app that shows you what the wind speeds will be like 100 meters above the ground, because they might be much higher than those at ground level. If you're flying above sea level up in the mountains or something, then do check the wind speeds at that altitude and not where you're coming from. If you know there's an extra 10 kilometers of wind at the height you're going to, you can adjust your flight time accordingly. But what if there's an unexpected wind change, like a squall that just blows up unexpectedly? If this happens, you have a couple of choices. Firstly, you can either land if it's safe to do so and then just go and collect your drone, or you can nurse it home in the air. If you do want to fly it back, perhaps because you're over water and that's your only option, then you need to get as low as possible because the wind speed will be far less nearer the ground. The fourth drama you may encounter while flying your drone is a bird attack. This is something I've definitely experienced here in Australia, but it can happen anywhere and in urban or rural settings. I once had a wedge-tailed sea eagle pay my old Phantom 4 some attention, and let me tell you, those birds are massive and could easily pluck a drone out of the sky. But even little birds, particularly ones being defensive about their nests, will have a go at your drone. Now firstly, we don't want to harm any birds. They're just going about their day and they perceive your drone as a threat, but it's not like they're doing this out of malice. So you need to get your drone home and out of the bird's territory as quickly as possible. And the obvious thing to do is to bring that drone straight down, right? Wrong. Birds cannot fly up as quickly as they can fly down. So push that left stick all the way up, get some height fast, and then get clear of the bird as quickly as possible. If you're confident, then I suggest you flick your drone into sports mode to maximize your speed and ensure that this unwelcome animal encounter is over as quickly as possible. Alright, my fifth and final drone drama is the moving home point and how to mitigate for a changing home GPS location. When you first take off with your drone, you'll get a notification that the home point has been set. And at least on my DJI Mavic 2 Pro, the app suggests I check the home point on the map. And that's exactly what I do. I tap the map to enlarge it and ensure that the pointer is where it needs to be. That home point is crucial, of course, because if there's a problem and the drone's automated return to home functionality kicks in, it's going to fly to that point. Anyone that's flown a drone from a boat will know that this is something you do not want to get wrong. If you and your controller are moving because you're walking or in a car or on a boat, then you need to regularly update your home point. Now, unfortunately, there's no way to do this automatically. It'd be nice to have an option that set the controller dynamically as the home point, and then the drone would just return to wherever you were. You can, however, do this manually by selecting the Update Home Point option. On DJI drones, this will pull up a map which enables you to set the home point as the drone's current position, as your controller's current position, or by dragging the point around on the map, any location you specify. So if you're going to be flying your drone from a boat or a moving car, then familiarise yourself with the location of that Update Home Point function for your particular drone. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Have you had any dodgy drone dramas? Has your drone been attacked by an angry bird of prey? Have you suffered from a flyaway due to electromagnetic interference? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing for more content like this from me. Till the next time guys, ta-ta.